thing that you should be aware of if you're not already is that when parents are going through divorce, if the other parent wants to gain more advantage in the situation, they can make up false allegations.
We're not saying they will. We're saying that this happens a lot, repeatedly. And if there's a parent that's willing to do that and make claims or allegations against you, they do it because they know they can get a benefit. And they also do it because if they gained benefit in the past doing it, then they feel they will gain benefit doing it again. So if false allegations are being used in your situation so the other parent can gain benefit, it's even harder and longer each time you give in and they get benefit if they have that tendency to do that.
So part of the reason we both wrote the book and why we both post the blog articles and all the things that we do is that it took us a long time to learn all of these things. It was brutal. It was very, very difficult and stressful, and there wasn't a whole lot of material out there when we started. There was a little, but there wasn't a whole lot, and so we were trying to make this easier and better for you if you are new to this and just getting involved in it, to be able to give you as much information up front to prepare you psychologically for what you're going to be hit with, and more than that, to give you tools to fight back.
Yeah, because every time you give in to those parents that make those false claims, the next time they fight harder and longer. And when you don't give in, they just take you back to the judge and they just take you back to court again, and you end up in this endless cycle. You end up going back to court and you end up being afraid to tell the other parent, no, I'm not going to agree to that. No, I'm not going to say that's okay. And then they just cost you more money, don't they? They say, well, I'll just take you back to court again and I'll just ask for
a child custody study again. You might have already been through one. Can they order it again? Yeah, they can, and they do.
They can come back and seek modification and changes every year. They can print until your children age out if you don't shut them down.
So,
and it may seem a little daunting and a little risky to do some of this constitutional stuff up front.
But if you do it up front and you prevail, then it shuts down and prevents you from having to seek modification after modification after modification.
Right, because then you know you have it in place.
It's part of your order from originally. It's much harder for them to go back, reopen it up, and it puts the burden on them. So,
two paths that you open up when you protect your rights. One is shutting down what the state courts are doing and avoid having to go to the appellate courts, or at least have a better argument to get the appellate courts or to get the state courts overturned. And the other is not being left with an order that you cannot live with and avoiding having to take this back to court later to modify. If you don't do this, you might have to live with an order that is unlivable or unworkable for you for the rest of your life, or until the kids are at least 18 if you don't use these rights. And you might not be able to afford to go through the process the way that the courts require right now. They require all sorts of studies and appoint all sorts of experts or professionals.
The process, even if you do have a lot of money, because making the money, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, doesn't mean that you don't live a lifestyle that requires that money. It doesn't mean they're not going to hit you for more than half your income with everything they start piling on top of you. So just because they think your numbers look good, it doesn't mean you can actually afford this process, does it?
And as much as they claim they are working for the best interest of the child, they will not hesitate to bankrupt a family to pay their cronies. Now, they will not hesitate for a second. They will drive you in, and they really don't care about your child or what that does to your child or your child's future. They don't care that it takes your child's college fund to fight for your child or anything else. They want that money. They will get that money if you don't fight them properly.
Now, that doesn't go to say that everything that we do is free. We do a lot of webinars that are free. We do give materials away that are free. We also have materials that cost, and we also have services that cost. Now, why is that? So you might think, oh, well, you just want us to give you the money, right? No, what we're actually doing is helping to give you the tools that help you assert the only thing that does actually protect you from these things. And that's why I said we're discovering paths where you can use them earlier and earlier so that they can't.
It's when they drag things out for years that things cost more and more for you. So we are trying to shorten that path, and the only way we can
do it is by doing research. We have other things in the pipeline that we want to develop that have nothing to do with family courts.
Right.
So
Now, ideally, we work ourselves out of a job here, because what we want to do is make this system constitutional to where our services are no longer needed. That you walk into court and it's guaranteed that you're going to get equal time with your child. The only thing you're going to maybe argue and fight over is which time you get and which time they get.
yeah.
And little details like that. But whether or not you're going to get equal time to your child and equal rights to your child, that will not be in question when we're done.
And so what we do will go away eventually, and we'll deal with other areas of constitutional law. We are on a mission to change this system forever so that it follows constitutional principles and they cannot do to other people what they have done to us.
Yeah. So we hope that you guys got something out of this tonight. If you have questions that we weren't able to answer, like David, we didn't answer those during this session because we were trying to just cover beginning divorce stuff. But we're happy to look at that and see if it's something that we can address. If it's something that we can't address without you checking off the box that we're not attorneys, I might send you to the contact page to ask it. So this is the contact page.
So don't feel like we're being mean or super formal when we send you to the contact page. The primary reason we do that is to make sure you don't fall through the cracks and we see your contact and what you need. And number two, there's a box there that you have to check that says that you recognize that we are not attorneys. We do not practice law. We are not giving you specific legal advice. You need an attorney for that, or at least if you are pro se, you need to find an attorney you can at least consult with for that, or you need to do a heck of a lot of studying in your state. What we do is education about constitutional concepts and principles and how they apply to family law.
And you check that protects us from being sued for practicing law without a license, which we are absolutely not doing.
Yeah. So bottom line is, how do you stop these cycles of all of these things that you're having to go through? It's with your rights. And how do you use your rights? You learn how to use your rights. So the first thing that we usually recommend is get the green book.
not in the child's best interest.
On the fixedfamilycourts.com, or you can find it on our Amazon, and the Amazon page. Just go to Amazon and search "not in the child's best interest,"
Or search by our names, either way.
right? And then the next step is to go to the motions page and get the motions. Those are the most recent development since the publication of the book. We also have online courses.
We are also involved in activist work. So we have another book, this book, the 28th Amendment, Protecting Parent-Child Bonds. And what that is the other side of this, the carrot and the stick, right? So the idea here is that if they, the courts, are not going to do this through common law and start making the right opinions, we're going to force a constitutional amendment through that requires them to do this, all right? Much like women fought for equal rights, they had the Equal Rights Amendment. It almost passed, but it became unnecessary because the courts fixed all the issues through legal precedent, and now women essentially have the same rights as men. Numerous cases establish this. Arguably, that amendment is no longer necessary. We're going the same route. If the courts are not going to change, then we're going to fire up everybody from an activist perspective and push through legislation and amendments that will require this.
Right. You have to start asking for it. They have to know that this is what you want, that this is what you believe. Parents can't believe in it or even know that it exists unless somebody teaches them.
And so we need to up the pressure from every direction, not just in your own individual battle, but if you're the kind of person who's into being active and pushing for political change that way.
There was one thing that I didn't bring up that I think is very important.
If you are going through divorce, you are also probably going to experience some sort of parental alienation. Whether it's being done initially by the other parent or not, it can also be caused by the courts, and we call it court-induced parental alienation. We have a webinar on that. Just go to our page, www.fixedfamilycourts.com, and look for the webinar called Help, I'm Being Alienated.
And go
Tremendous benefit in having this information up front. Just having the right name. parental alienation or online is tremendously valuable. We didn't have that name until far, far into our case.
Before we realized what was going on and that there was an actual name for it and we could get information on it and we could reach out to expert, there are experts in the field of parental alienation.
Yes. If we had it sooner, I would have been a lot less stressed out because I would have known what was happening and I would have known how to make some different choices.
It actually helped us tremendously to have one of these experts speak with our attorney and help her understand how to frame the parental alienation in court. And Sherry actually has an order that includes the term alienating behaviors.
Thank you for being here tonight. Thanks again for coming, and we hope to see you in our next webinar so that you can take control of your life back and get your children back in your life. See you next time.